So the number one trend, guys, that we're now going to see moving forward with all kinds of kitchens is the reintroduction of color, but not the way we saw it happening last year. Long-term trends for kitchens are going to be the addition of color, but in interesting and subtle ways that both tie the space back into the feel of the rest of the house and communicate a little bit of a storyline of their own. So for instance, here's a perfect example of an interesting and unusual way to add color into a kitchen. I really liked this solution where they have this lovely peaked ceiling in that kitchen, so they kept the rest of it sort of quiet, a little bit on the creamier side, but then they popped a note of this glorious sort of sagey green, and on top of that, guys, they added it in a sheen. So not only is that good for performance, but it sort of adds an extra layer of interest to the fact that there's color up there on the ceiling. So very nice solution for that kitchen, and I'm sure it ties in with the rest of the house. Or, you can go the standard route, adding base color to the perimeter cabinets like you see here, and then doing some natural wood shelves up above. I think you all know how I feel about open wood shelves in kitchens. I'm not a huge fan unless you live in a crate and barrel display. But the reality of it is, it kind of ties in nicely with this note of sort of sagey green, kind of a natural tone, and it picks up a little bit of the storyline of the natural wood up above. So it's a nice way to add some color into the kitchen without overwhelming the kitchen with it. Or this solution where it's using color, but it's using color in a blocking mechanism where the entire back part of the cook wall has gone very dark. Now, it's technically color, but they've popped that hood out. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but they popped that hood out into kind of a wonderful copper tone, and they've kept the backsplash all the way up, kind of this charcoal gray, which is great. Then they reference those tones again over in the dining table that's adjacent and pulled around to the front of the island with these beautiful bar stools that have a little bit of that kind of saddle tone, reiterating the aspect of both the natural shelves and the hood. So this is the way we're seeing color being added. It's much more sophisticated, it's not wholesale, it's thought through, and it actually relates better to the spaces, because so many of us are dealing with open kitchens and they really do need to relate to everything that layers out in front of it or around it, like your dining room, like maybe a big seating area in front of a fireplace. So the kitchen and great room thing has been around forever. And so when you look at adding solutions like this with color moments that are possibly replicated elsewhere in that space, that's when you really start to get that bespoke, elegant, looks like you kitchen. And I want to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring our video today. It used to be a little bit of a hassle to kind of get into finding the right therapist, but guess what? That has become history. I am thrilled to say that BetterHelp is changing the game with how we approach therapy, thanks to their kind of use of technology. They've made finding a licensed therapist not just easy, but super personalized. And let me tell you, taking that step can seem monumental, but with BetterHelp, it's straightforward and super simple. You just sign up, you fill out a little questionnaire that gets to the heart of what you're going through and what kind of therapist you'd like, and they'll match you up with someone within, most cases, about 48 hours. And it's great. They've got video chats, phone calls, messaging. If talking face-to-face feels like too much, there's lots of options. And the flexibility to schedule sessions that fit your life, oh, that's so amazing. You can click the link in the description down below, or you can visit betterhelp.com/Lisa Holt. And what's great about that is clicking this link helps support this channel. And it also gets you 10% off of your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Now, next up in trends that we're going to be seeing for a while is a big resurgence in kind of natural materials and natural textures. The overwhelming desire for white oak that we see kind of expressed here in this beautiful kitchen, I love, and I really like the idea of how they combined the textures, because they have these beautiful white oak cabinets that also tie in with their white oak floor. That's when you want to make sure that your floor and your cabinets tie together in that situation. And then they did this wonderful sort of round shape in what looks like a plaster or some sort of softened kind of concrete finish for what would be the peninsula edge of the island. This is a great look. Or how about this one, where they've actually done just sort of knotty pine 9 upper cabinets and then made the base cabinets kind of a lower, darker charcoal, then added a stone floor in there. So lots of natural textures playing nicely together and obviously expressing the idea of what's going on in the rest of the house as well. Or you have this one, the idea of the wood being on the island alone and on the floor, and then the rest of the cabinets go out a really nice neutral with some interesting textural play of the big hardware in the unpolished brass. So that's also a good look and it'll stay for a long time. So the next thing that we're going to see with kitchens for here on for a good while is the texture combination story. Now, it can either be with natural materials or it can be with different types. Let me show you. This kitchen, pretty much all white, guys, right? So you may be able to relate to this. But what they did is they changed up their hood statement to something that has this wonderful natural wood chevron look. So all of a sudden, not only is it a natural material, but it's a natural material and a really interesting texture of that chevrons. I'm telling you guys, chevrons and fluting are going to be seen all over, especially, in kitchens that need a little bit of oomph. Take a look at this one. This is another great idea, which is they took their island and wrapped it with some fluting. So the idea of that fluted texture running down. They left the other cabinets alone. They were probably a natural material to begin with and or maybe even painted. But when they add that fluting in on the island, not only does it make the island a little bit of a focal point, but then they popped up and added textural pendants over the island that are woven kind of a raffia basket style. Nice and yummy. Change out of texture. So now you've got fluting, natural wood, painted wood, and the basket textures in the ceiling. So these are easy ways, right, to kind of like introduce a little tooth, a little bit of interest to things. Here's another beautiful example. They changed out their backsplash to a little bit of a herringbone style wood, and they took it really dark, which made it very interesting because then they pulled shelving out and made that white. So again, you've got what probably started out as a more or less white kitchen, but with the addition of some of these interesting toothy textures like the herringbone tile in a dark, that's fantastic, or the chevrons, or even the fluting. All of that starts to make things look really interesting. I also really like this one where, again, it's a hood decision because, hood wraps are fairly easy to kind of switch out even if you don't touch the rest of your kitchen. Now, it does look to me like they may have had originally a white base cabinet and they painted it. That's always a great, easy solution. And they took it kind of a yummy dark charcoal. The wood floor already adds a texture, but then what they did was they went to town on that hood and gave it a pierced metal with a blackened finish. So now all of a sudden you have this yummy dark hood that relates to the lower base cabinets and makes all that tie together, but it's got this interesting kind of laser cut texture to it. That's a totally unexpected look and very interesting and kind of plays into that texture story. So guys, I really want to thank BetterHelp for being the sponsor of our video today. And if you'd like to watch more videos of mine, you can check out this playlist that I put together just for this video, and be sure and check out my links down below, and I'll see you next week.